So last week, we started a discussion that I called Give God a Chance. And it was in that process we started talking about this idea about how our original beliefs that we picked up when we were small children, how they impacted the way that we lived. And we started that idea that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't necessarily that God changed, but maybe I changed. And I was explaining the process that I was going through, and I also talked about a class that I'm teaching called My Path, and in that class, we're going through and we're looking at the different aspects of this idea of where do I start? So some people, I was saying last week, come in with this idea, they feel really cool, they love the energy here, they like the people, they like everything else, and they're fine and they're happy. That's great. But then there's people who go, yeah, but I want to take this a little bit further. Like all this stuff feels good and everything else like that, but is there something that I can do? And so what I did was I sat back and I thought about it, and the thought that came to my mind, and this has been percolating for a couple of years now, is like, well, why don't I just tell them my story? And not that my story is the path. There is now no such thing as the path. There's one path. And you know what that path is? It's your path. But if in some way, shape, or form, I can possibly help you get the ball rolling, because I really do think that's all you need to do is get the ball rolling, then fantastic. And so my idea was put this thing together, have a class, have a conversation about it, so that moving forward, maybe, just maybe, I could create something like a little booklet or a book or something where if people walk in the door, they would have something. And so that was the whole purpose of it. So in that process, I talked about the 4 steps that I went through. How many people remember what those steps were? Keith? Unlearning? Learning? Embody? Serve. Keith gets a gold star for the day. Yay! Yeah. Very good. You know, it's really nice to know that. You get up here and sometimes I go, are people really listening? That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, there's these things, and I talked about the process of doing that. And I said, well, why is it so important that we start off with unlearning? And I said, well, you got to back up for a minute. And it's like, well, why do we got to back up for a minute? And it's because of beliefs. And then I used the definition, which I love, the idea of a belief just being a thought that you keep thinking over and over again. I went into a deep dive into neural pathways and neuroscience and stuff like that. Go back in and you can watch it. I'm not going to go any further than that, other than to say our beliefs happen when basically we think it over and over and over again, and those do become our beliefs. And then I also said, where do they come from? Originally, they come from parents, environment, perceptions, everything. We're just a great big huge sponge. And that's what happened. So now we've got all these beliefs coming in. And then I questioned you, and I questioned myself, and I said to myself, well, do all of our beliefs come from us? So what's the answer to that question? The other question is, are all of our beliefs true? No. Does it matter? Well, yes and no. It matters because those beliefs are going to impact every single thing that you do and the way that you show up, right? The other thing is, we are absolutely, completely convinced that our beliefs are true. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a belief, right? Just ask anybody who's into the political debate. We're not talking politics. We're not talking politics. But I'm just saying, ask somebody, who you voting for? And let me tell you why. And boy, boy, oh boy, you're right. Notice I didn't say anything about who, but they're right. And because they know, and they will absolutely tell you that they are right. Anyways, it's all good. It's all good. So, anyways, we're talking about these beliefs, and I talked about this idea of unlearning, and I went through this idea, or this concept of all these beliefs are held in this box, if you will, this analogy, and I said, what would happen if we were to take our box out? At one point in time in our life, in my opinion, you should do it several times, but you take this box out, and now you sit it on a table, and now we're going to open the box up. And we're going to take the box out, we're going to take one by one, one by one, one by one, one by one, we're going to pull these beliefs out, and we are going to set them on the table, and instead of looking at those beliefs through the eyes of a child, we are now going to look at those beliefs through the eyes of an adult, mature us, to the best of our ability, to where we're at here and now. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, do those beliefs still serve me? Do those beliefs help me get to where I'm wanting to go? Is that really going to make my life better by continuously believing this belief, right? And so I told my story. I'm not going to tell it again. You guys are tired. You yawn when I tell it. I tell it so many times. But all I'm going to say is that I grew up, and as my story goes, I wound up being a fundamental Christian. That was my original upbringing, right? And as a fundamental Christian, last week I went through those beliefs, what it sounded like. Who did I think God was? Who did I think Jesus was? Who did I think I was? And those were the beliefs I had. And for a while, that's kind of what I hung out with, right? And it served me. And when I look back now, I get to smile at those beliefs. And it doesn't mean that as I changed those beliefs, I wasn't right, I wasn't wrong, they weren't better than, they weren't less than, they weren't anything. It's just that, if you can imagine, for whatever reason, I chose the fundamental Christian path when I came into this lifetime to understand God. I know that is really an interesting concept because of who and what I am now. It doesn't even remotely come close to who I was back here. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I don't know. Well, I can guess why I did that or what the setup was, because I believe that we do set up conditions in our lives because we all want to learn different lessons. And I believe part of my setup was being a fundamental Christian, right? So then all of a sudden, things started to change, and voila, guess what happens? Unity. Unity happens. So I go from this fundamental belief, I'm really struggling with traditional fundamental Christianity. Again, nothing wrong with it. If that's where your heart and soul is, good for you. I'm very genuinely happy for you. Good. But for me, it was changing. And my soul, that nudge, the thing I keep talking about is there. It kept poking me and poking me and poking me and saying, yeah, but there's something else. And then my mother says, hey, Michael, I'm going to this new place called Unity. You should think about coming. Okay. Everything changed. So everything changed, right? More specifically, my beliefs changed. So my beliefs started to change. And so I wanted to share a few of those beliefs. And by the way, these were the new understandings at this time. But do my beliefs, will they continue to grow and will they continue to change? Yes, of course they will. And guess what? Are your beliefs going to grow and are they going to change? Dear God, I hope so, right? Yes. So my beliefs from Unity when I first walked in the door sounded something like this. God's not separate from me, nor am I separate from God. Because remember, I was taught God's out there, the old man in the sky, I'm down here, right? That's what I was taught. God loves me unconditionally, and when I say unconditionally, I mean that. I don't mean only if I follow the 10 rules, 10 commandments, right? God has both masculine and feminine aspects. So in other words, it's not, for me, God's not a man or a woman. God contains both of them, the perfect balance of the feminine and the masculine. God is omnipresent. God is everywhere. God is omnipotent. And even that definition has changed for me. I used to think omnipotent meant God was all-powerful. That's what I was taught even when my first beginning years in Unity, and now I believe this. God is the source of all power. God isn't all-powerful. She is the source of all power. You see that difference? That little nuance? That's a new one for me, and it's changed the way that I perceive it and I understand it, which to me is incredible. God is omniscient. I used to think that meant that God was the source. God was all-knowing. But now what I believe is God is the source of all knowledge. Again, slight nuance, a little bit of a difference. So again, I'm changing, I'm shifting. My beliefs and understanding of God is changing and shifting. Ultimately, what do I really think? God is love. That's what I really think. That's what I really feel, right? Oh, and there's a whole lot of names to God, right? In fact, I started typing them out. I was going to put them up there, but after about 25, I quit doing it. Just too many names. And if I were to ask each and every one of you, what do you think you call it? And I would get probably about 50 different answers, more than likely, right? How about Jesus? Now, I believe that he realized and lived as if he and God were one, which is pretty cool. He fully embodied Christ consciousness and taught that that to anyone who would listen to him. In other words, that's really what he was doing. He was out there talking about this thing called Christ consciousness. That's what he taught. He also told us whatever he could do, we could do. Really? He really said that, and more. That's correct. He did say that. Whatever I can do, you can do, and more. Direct quote. It's in the Bible. It must be true. He also, to me, is one of our greatest gifts. I think, to me, Jesus will always be a mentor. He'll always be a teacher. And I adore Jesus. I do. Different level, different understanding. I don't believe that he was the only Son of God either. I think that there are many, and many daughters of God. Right? He continues to be one of my greatest teachers and loves me unconditionally. That's what I believe, right? How about me? And now, instead of being separate from God, I believe I'm actually part of God, and God is a part of me. So there's no separation. None. None, none, none. I was not born in original sin, but instead I am an original blessing. Do you think that might change the way I live my life just a little bit? Just a little bit. Yeah, maybe. That I was worthy of receiving God's love because of who I am, not because of what I did or did not do. What? Wait a minute, but don't I got to do all this and do that and meditate and pray, and don't I got to live the blah, 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 blah? No, it's because of who you are. You are a spark of the divine, each and every one of you. We all are. Nothing, 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 nothing can change that. Nothing can change that. Ever. Nothing can change that. The only limits I have are the ones that I've put on myself, not those put on me by God. Really? Yeah, really. So, is that a little bit different than my original understanding? Yeah. Here's my question. So here was the old Mike with the original understanding and everything, and here is the new Mike. Do you think there might be a little bit of a difference between my relationship with God and with Jesus and with myself, between these two polarities, if you will? So then the question is, who changed? Was it God or Jesus? Or was it me? Yeah, my understanding. Remember last week I used this quote where Fillmore's quoted as saying, God is principle by principle meant definite, exact, and unchangeable rules of action. The word that I focus on there is unchangeable. I don't think God changes. I simply think that God is. That's what I think, right? And so therefore, what I really believe now is that I'm the one who has changed, not God. And as a result of my beliefs changing, I think my relationship has changed a lot with this thing called God. And for me, maybe not for everybody else, but for me, that relationship with Jesus has changed a lot. And the relationship I have with myself has changed a lot, right? And that's why I really talk about this idea of giving God a chance. What I really am saying is not giving God a chance, because God has not changed. What I'm really saying is, hey, don't you think it might be time to pull the box out and pull all the beliefs out and start looking at the beliefs and see if your beliefs are really still serving you, and if they are, beautiful, keep them. But if you're sitting there going like, I've had this relationship with God and it's well then maybe, I don't know, maybe it's time to start looking at that and see what your belief is and see if it's everything that you want it to be. And if it's magical and incredible and wonderful and beautiful and it's cool, keep it. But if it's not, maybe, just maybe, it's time to start looking at some of the things that you believe in. Because your beliefs are going to dictate the way that your relationship is with, everything. Your health, your finances, your relationships. Your beliefs impact all of that. We're just talking about the spiritual and God stuff here, but I'm telling you that it impacts everything in your life, your beliefs, right? When I changed my beliefs, everything changed, period. End of story, right? And really what it comes down to when I'm talking about this is this idea or thought of spiritual maturity. We change, we grow, we understand. As the saying goes, when I was a child, I thought like a child. And I had very simplistic ideas of who and what God was. And I remember saying the same prayer. How many people can finish this prayer for me? Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Yeah. I said that for 3, 4, or 5 years when I was a kid because I loved God. I didn't know anything else, and I just said it night after night after night because my mom told me that's what I should do. And I also had a connection with God, so I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. And then eventually one night, I don't remember why, I said, my God, what if I change that? What a concept. So what started to happen? I started to understand. I started to live. I started to be a little bit different. In other words, I started to mature. We all mature. We all start to understand it a little bit differently. And as we grow and we mature, our understanding of ourselves, our understanding of possibly Jesus, our understanding of God changes. In my opinion, you should take a look at this often, to see if it's still serving you, right? This idea or this thought, it's just this belief. I'm going to go back to those because I just think this is so incredibly important. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again. I want you to think about that, especially all you unitics out there. What is that called in unity when you keep saying something over and over and over again? Thank you. In unity, that's called an affirmation, right? An affirmation is a spiritual tool that Myrtle Fillmore used to heal herself and to start the entire unity movement. Why? What was she doing when she used an affirmation? What was she doing? She was healing herself, but she was also changing her beliefs. We don't ever talk about that. We were never taught that anywhere in all of life, that you can actually change your beliefs. In fact, many people still believe they can't change their beliefs. You can change them. It's exactly what Myrtle did. She changed her beliefs. And I don't care what it's about. You can change them. Why? Because of that. A belief is nothing more than a thought you keep thinking over and over and over again. Again, that's what an affirmation does. Learning how to change your old beliefs that you no longer want to believe is at the core of all of unity. That's what we do here. That's how the whole thing got started. Becoming aware of what your beliefs are to begin with, realizing here they are, and then realizing you can actually change them, which will in effect change your life, is what we do here. That's it. It's powerful. You start the process of actually weeding out your beliefs you don't want because they're probably not yours anyways, right? So why would you not want to get rid of some of that stuff and then start changing them to what you want to believe? Only do it consciously this time. Do it consciously. Then start changing. Then start becoming whatever it is that you want to become. And that's how we do it. So here's what I leave you with. What about you? What are your beliefs? What do you think? Is it time to maybe start looking at a few things? Is it time to maybe give God another chance? But in reality, are we really giving God another chance? Or maybe we're just giving ourselves another chance. Are you worthy of that? Is it okay for you to maybe do things a little bit differently? Is it okay to forgive yourself? Is it okay to maybe offer yourself a little grace? Is it okay for you to finally stop doing that thing that you just swear to God, I just wish I could quit doing this thing? Or I swear to God, I could just wish I could start doing this other thing? Or I could start showing up in my life more powerfully, more lovingly, more compassionately? Is it okay for you to do that? In other words, when are you going to give yourself permission to fully step in and start really doing this work? You are so beyond worth it. You are so incredibly beautiful, powerful, amazing, because you have the spark of the divine within you. We all do. And as a result of it, the only thing that's stopping you from doing any of this work is you. And so I leave you with a final thought, just this idea. Maybe today's the day when you go home and you got a little bit of time this afternoon. Maybe you go grab a little pad of paper. Maybe you go outside and sit under a tree. Maybe you just open yourself up to God and say, all right, God, I'm ready. I'm ready. It's time. Take me. Show me. And watch what happens. I love you. I really do love you. And I acknowledge the divinity in each and every one of you. You are an amazing, amazing, amazing spark of the divine. And I could not be more grateful for each and every one of you. God bless. Namaste and Namaste.
Hey, it's Reverend Mike here. I just wanted to stop for a moment before you get on with your day and thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It means the world to us, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience even better, please do not hesitate to reach out by going to our website. I also wanted to offer you the opportunity for us to get together and sit down so I could get to know you a little bit better and answer any questions that you have. I can either do that by either getting together in person, have a cup of coffee, or we can meet online via Zoom. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at michael@courage2thrive.com. And lastly, if you find these messages are helping you, we would be tremendously grateful if you'd consider donating to the center. The best and the easiest way to do that is simple. Just go to our website. Again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're doing well. God bless, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.